Hello, my name is Frank Noto. I want to welcome everyone to this video presentation on copyright law. I am an accounting teacher in college and an educational technology graduate student. In all of my educational work, I am faced with obtaining the necessary literary information, music, pictures, graphics, clip art, etc. that can be used without copyright worry in my learning projects, such as papers, videos, digital stories, and teaching Kahoots. The primary purpose of this presentation is for you to have a basic understanding of copyright law and your fair use rights, as well as a practical understanding of where one can go on the web to get the information you need in a manner that will avoid copyright infringement. The whole purpose of copyright law enacted by Congress was to give authors and investors exclusive rights to their works. As a general rule, for works created after January 1st, 1978, copyright protection lasts for the life of the author, plus an additional 70 years. So Congress also wanted to recognize that generally all new works are in some way, shape, or fashion based on the creator's understanding of what has already happened. For example, previous books were read and studied in the creation of new books. Therefore, they enabled what is called fair use of copyrighted materials to facilitate and encourage new creations. It all started in the late 1800s. There is a separate copyright office within the Library of Congress that administers copyright registration. Today, the department has about 400 employees and handles over 400,000 registrations a year. Everything on the web should be considered copyrighted unless you know factually otherwise. An example that is not copyrighted is either material on a United States government site or if in public domain, that is, a specific site that is labeled public domain, or other sites that specifically indicate that the material is free for you to reuse. Copyright law pertains to both for-profit and non-profit. However, copyright law does protect teachers and students with fair use of these materials without asking permission of the copyright holders or paying a fee. The key is whether you can reasonably determine fair use after analyzing the 4 factors that determine fair use. First one's wrong. Whether published or unpublished, copyright laws pertain. However, the non-published work must be in some tangible form versus simply an idea in someone's head. Now, it's great to give credit, and that's best practice and a great general rule of thumb. However, you will not be considered plagiarizing the material if you give credit, but you can still be infringing on someone's copyright and subject to penalty. Generally speaking, you cannot copy copyrighted material without permission or paying a license fee, except if fair use can be determined based on an analysis of the 4 factors that determine fair use. Regarding music, images, and clip art, simply because they can be downloaded, that doesn't mean that the author's copyright legal rights can't be infringed upon. For each site, you must review the terms and conditions of the site. There are sites where the music or images are free for reuse. Regarding fair use, the courts will evaluate all 4 factors in making their determination if fair use applies. So, you must make the determination that you're eligible for fair use by an understanding of the 4 factors and making your own determination. It's very important to understand what copyright law protects. It's also very important to understand, while we're involved in these areas, what our fair use rights are, and to make sure that we do the proper determination so that we are not violating copyright law. It's equally important to understand what it doesn't cover. For example, ideas are great, but they can't be copyrighted. Now we're going to cover best practices for getting the material that you need in a manner that can avoid copyright infringement. Under the fair use laws, copyrighted materials are available. However, we must make sure we understand the 4 factors that qualify us for fair use. Material in the public domain or on government sites are available without copyright concern. The third option is obtaining material under Creative Commons license. Also, there are websites that clearly state that the music or pictures on this site are completely free, which we will discuss later in this presentation. There are 4 factors in determining fair use. Fair use allows you to use the material without asking permission or paying a fee. Here is some practical advice in determining fair use. You're using the material in a non-profit setting. It applies to schools and educational settings. It also applies to news reporting, criticizing commentary, comedy, and parody. You've added value to the original work, and your work is productive in that the new work builds upon the original expression. So reworking the original expression and using it in a different way is productive. You used only a small portion of the copyrighted work, and there is no effect. What you created has no effect on the market value of the copyrighted work. The courts will look at all 4 factors, but may give weight to one or more factors. So what is Creative Commons? It's an American nonprofit organization that helps you legally share your knowledge and creativity to build a more equitable, accessible, and innovative world, unlocking the full potential of the Internet to drive a new era of development, growth, and productivity. It allows you to legally use some rights reserved music, movies, images, and other content, all for free. So you need music for a multimedia presentation. I wanted to share some sites that I believe you can avoid copyright infringement and get the music free or with a small fee. Hello. I want to go through how do you obtain an image and make sure that it's authorized for reuse. So I would normally go to Google and I'm looking for a certain animal and I'm typing in animals. And you can see that it pops up with all images, video, news, books, more search tools across the top. Now I'm going to click on images. And normally you get a listing of a lot of images and you go and you select. But that would be wrong because all of these pictures are certainly not free, and if they're on the web you need to assume that they're all in some fashion copyrighted unless they're authorized for reuse. So now you have to click on search tools, click on usage rights, click on labeled for reuse, and I'm going to select the giraffe, and then I'm going to visit the page, and this giraffe is on the public domain, and so it's free for usage, and you can download it and not have to worry about whether I'm violating copyright laws or I'm infringing on copyright on the original owner of this picture. And that's the correct way to do it. Thank you. Listed on this slide are some great sites where you can obtain images, videos, photos, and clip art. The technology today allows everyone who has a smartphone the capability to be a film producer. It's important to understand and comply with fair use factors when using copyrighted material. I gave you a hot link to a best practices site that can help you in your fair use determination. Here's some case law. All of it points to making sure you understand the fair use law and don't violate any provision of it. In summary, please use this video as a first step in understanding copyright law and fair use law. As a teacher or student, please take the extra step to understand where to get your materials in a manner that respects the rights of the copyright holders as well as utilizes your right to fair use.